The Walking Dead had a really cool episode. I loved this last week's episode. The name of it was, I just had it pulled up, something about Calamity and stuff like that. Anyway, I can't think of it, but oddly enough, I like this episode because it does the thing in Walking Dead that I don't really care for, and that is focusing on just one character, which is what it does. So you saw the mid-season finale where it takes Eugene with him after finding out that he's the one who made the bullet that almost got him.
Yeah.
Well, this is completely just focused 100% on Eugene and his experience with Negan trying to break him, and it's not the same way that he tries to break Daryl. It's very different. He basically, there's a scene where he tests Eugene to see if he's smart or if he's an idiot. And Eugene, he basically takes him out to the end where they have all the walkers, and the walkers are falling apart, as things tend to do in nature. So he, well, hey, what would you do to stop them from falling apart? And Eugene has like this really outrageous idea about like using molten metal to like basically encase the walkers in to make their body hold together, but also protect. So almost like molted armor for them. I don't know how well that would let them move.
Have you heard of an anime called Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress?
Absolutely not.
It's basically like zombies that have like it's like this weird disease or curse. And like whenever someone gets bit by this thing called a Cabaneri, it basically infects them, and they get like this iron casing around their heart, and it makes them like really, they're basically unkillable unless you have like a high powered rifle or a sword that can break through their skin. So that's kind of like what that sounds like. So I just had like the theme song of that going through.
Well, whether if it works or not, Negan loves the idea. And there's this interesting thing about, at this point in the scene, he's carrying this jar of pickles because he wanted some pickles, and like Negan's like, it's like, oh, I need to reward you, and like he basically says you can have an evening with my wives. And at first I thought, oh, Negan's testing him, and if he goes for it, Eugene is going to be in trouble. But no, he actually like lets his men like have a night hanging out with his wives. They're not allowed to go too far, of course, but just like have dinner and have a conversation, that sort of thing. So he offers that to Eugene, and Eugene's just like, I was gifted these pickles. These will do just fine. But Negan insists, so three of Negan's wives hang out with him while he's like playing Atari in this really nice room that he's not being held in a cell. He gets a nice room. Oh, when he first gets there, I want to say, one of the saviors, that woman with the blonde hair and the ponytail, she asks him if he wants anything to eat. He's like, I can have anything? She's like, yeah, you can have anything you want. He's like, can I have lobster? No, you can't have lobster. What are you, crazy? And I just thought that was pretty good. So yeah, he's living it up, man. He's like, surrounded by these attractive women, and one of them just keeps like drinking, and you can tell she's not too excited about the accommodation she's found herself in. And later on, the two other women that are there that night approach Eugene and ask him to make some, he can kill herself, basically. At the same time, Dwight's former wife, that is now Negan's wife, left the compound. It's pretty well established that she's the one that let Daryl go.
I figured she was.
Yeah, she left. And Dwight, at the very, very beginning of the episode, is beaten up and put in the same cell that Daryl was in, because they suspect he's in on it. Well, Negan basically sends him out to go find her. There's a little bit of character development with him where you see a couple scenes with him talking to the doctor, which is important. Like, this is the same doctor that we saw earlier for the Saviors. And he goes out to find her. I guess he goes back to their old house, and they had this rule, like, you know, if they ever got, or if anything bad ever happened, like, he would bring beer and pretzels, and they would just meet at their house. Like, this is like before the apocalypse happened. And you basically see him do that, and she leaves a note saying, like, you know, why she left and why she's not going to go back, and she thinks she'll probably won't make it on her own, but she's going to try anyway. So you think that's the end of it. So he goes back to the compound and tells the story that he chased her into a horde of walkers and, like, basically put her out of her misery before she could be torn apart by them. Not true. That doesn't happen. And we see the scene where he is firing up the oven to heat up the iron that Negan is so fond of using. And you don't know who, like, what this is for. Like, maybe Eugene, because he does agree to make the pills for that one wife to offer herself with. And they did say something interesting. They said, well, we need two make sure that she wants to make sure that she dies and is not just harmed. And he asks her weight, and they said, so, then there's a scene with you know, someone's going to get burned, and it's the doctor that Negan has a problem with. And apparently what's happened, like, he's accusing the doctor of basically, like, having an affair with, I can't think of her name either, but this is Dwight's wife, basically. He accused him of having an affair with her, because guess what he found in the doctor's office? Control. Part of that note that she left for Dwight at their old house. Just the part that said, bye, honey. Goodbye, honey, at the end. So it's in her handwriting. Very, very, and of course he's like, no, I didn't do it. Don't burn me. He's like, I'm not going to burn you. Just say you're sorry. And so the guy says he's sorry. He admits to doing it. So Negan tosses him into the oven.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Dwight is just stone cold throughout the entire thing. So this Eugene, of course, sees this happen. May give him pause as to what they're going to do. So later on, and also another thing that happened, he goes to a stereo and hits play in his room. Guess what song starts playing?
Dwight or
Eugene.
What?
Easy Street. And then guess what he starts doing? He starts bobbing his head to it. He likes Easy Street. So the other two wives come to him after he's like, get the needed materials to make these pills. And I think you see him make them too. So they ask for him, and he's like, I'm not giving them to you. And they're like, well, what? And he says, because these aren't for her, they're for Negan, aren't they? And he's like, and what he said what gave it off was the fact that they asked for 2, not just 1 pill. That would be enough to take down Negan. So they basically said like, well, we'll just tell Negan that, like, this was your idea. He's just like, he doesn't have any reason to believe you over me. Same as with the doctor. Like, he had no reason to believe that Dwight did anything wrong. Because Negan does explain, like, because the doctor was like trying to sound like, oh, Dwight can back me up on this, and he's just like, or Dwight's lying. He's just like, he doesn't have any reason to lie. So Eugene's kind of figured out a little bit of part of Negan most people don't realize. Like, maybe I think he assumes too much loyalty with his men. So then later on, and this is done really well. So at the very beginning of the episode, when Dwight got like the snot beat out of him, he's in his room, and they knock on the door like that typical, and then the door just bursts open with a bunch of the saviors, and they drag him out and beat him up with Negan standing there with the bat. So then Eugene's in his room later on, and the door knocks just like that. So I was thinking like, oh no, is Eugene about to like, is everything supposed to switch? And he opens the door, and it's Negan there with Lucille. So he comes in, and he has like a very like dour demeanor on, and he's talking to Eugene, and he basically is like, you might, I just need to ask one question. And Eugene goes, I'm Negan. I was Negan before I even met you. Eugene has a lot of really good moments in this episode. Like, if you like the character before, you're gonna love him after this. And basically, like the very last scene, he's like ordering around the saviors how they're like putting like molten metal on the walkers in their little defense area or whatever you call it. So yeah, while this episode really only focused on like Eugene and then a little bit on Dwight, it was done so well because I feel like Eugene like barely gets any attention in The Walking Dead, and he's a very underutilized character. What do you think of Eugene so far?
I really like him as comical relief, especially in like the earlier seasons, when he's still pretending to be like this super smart guy who's like who worked with the government and has like an idea of the cure. Just like the way that he like held himself for so long is just like, and then he just like admits everyone's like, no, I'm a liar, and then like he gets the snot beat out of him. And whenever he would talk to like Abraham or just anyone who would be like really angry at him, and he would just like pretend like they didn't say anything like crazy offensive, and like, I don't think that's super necessary. Or just, I don't know, the way that he talks, I just like really find
or how
humorous.
He gets called a coward, and he's like, you are not incorrect. That happens again. The two, when he says no to the wives about giving them the pills, they're like, you're a coward. He's just like, that is a correct assumption.
He's just like, he's like a very honest robot.
But he's very fearful of Negan. Like when he first is trying to convince him that he is indeed smart and has a has a way of coming up with things. Like, he's smart, but he's not as smart as he like makes himself out to be. So yeah. I really enjoyed this episode. I can't find anything wrong with it, so I give it a 10 out of 10, believe it or not. It was that good. You should definitely go watch it if you can.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure my mom she still records the Walking Dead episodes, so
yeah,
that definitely gives me something else to do during this weekend or week.
Yeah, you've got some time. Better use it wisely.